Hi, folks. It's Mike McEntee with The Uptake, and we're live here with Ben. Ben does some work that's kind of similar to what we do and kind of different. We want to check in with him. Ben, tell us what your company is and what you do.
Well, I make videos sometimes with wonderful audio like this, but what I do is I mostly make films geared towards policy change. I make films for nonprofits and other organizations that want to influence a policymaker on a specific vote coming up. And it's a little niche that I've created that has a more direct influence as to what's going on, right? I mean, a lot of times you have the constituents and then the message that you try to make for them and the policymaker. So instead, often I think it's a good strategy to take the influence directly from the message over to the policymaker without having to try to convince a million people in between to go ahead and do it in their name.
So do you call this journalism or public relations, or where does this fall on the spectrum?
I just call this filmmaking, even though we're not even using film, right? Right. I mean, it's public messaging, so I guess theoretically it could be a PSA, like a private service announcement. And then at the same time, we work in the form of new media, social media, to make sure everyone else gets to see it as well, so that no one can know or say that the legislator doesn't know what we taught the person. So we often take like a 30-page document that the organization wants to share and make it into a 90-second video and make it not only type, but make it something that legislator actually cares about. They might not even care about your issue, but they're going to vote on it, so they should know.
As we were talking about earlier today, it's not how many people always that watch, but it's the right people that watch that you're trying to get this to. Targeting this, how do you target a video so certain people get to watch it? How do you do that?
Right. So if there's two kinds of videos, and the people that need to make the decisions are either millions of people that are voting for that particular issue if it's a ballot initiative, or, it's just maybe a few people that could be on the fence about that specific issue. So what often we do is we just try to find the people that are staffers, or you go to Netroots Nation and you meet people that everybody knows somebody, and get it to the staff or sometimes the legislator themselves. And often it's not the legislator that makes the decisions. It's the staff that tells them what to do anyway. But, you name them by name, and often it's a flattering thing if someone makes a video just for you with your name on it, and try to find out what matters to them. If you have an environmental issue that matters to you, you can instead maybe make it about an economic side if the legislator cares more about the economic side than anything else.
You say legislators. Do you focus on state, or are you focusing on Congress, or where do you find most of the work you're doing?
Well, most of the work that I do is on a state level with California State, and I work in my own county too, Sonoma County, and then try to work a little bit of mojo on a personal level and doing my own on-the-ground activism. But I would love to work a lot more in the federal realm. I mean, the idea for me is just there's only, for me, about 18 hours a day. And I just want to be able to have the most meaningful, largest impact that I can, that will help people mostly through the huge energy transition and the huge environmental transition that we're going through right now.
Yeah, and California is the epicenter always for a lot of issues. You mentioned energy. We have the environment. I mean, what kind of general issues do you find yourself doing?
Right. Well, the other thing I mentioned was making films for a million people, which you sometimes have to do. So the way I got introduced to Netroots Nation is because I ran the social media campaign for Prop 16, and it was an interview situation, kind of like this. But
Prop 16, for those of us not familiar,
that are not so obnoxious to randomly name some obscure proposition for one state. Okay. So Prop 16, as you were saying, California is often leads in specific issues. So PG&E, an electric corporation in Northern California, tried to write its way into the Constitution to basically make it impossible for any community to start their own energy company or choose where their energy comes from. And that was, of course, absurd, and it was so absurd that they were only people that were backing it. So I created a social media campaign called 1 Million Strong Against Prop 16 with 1 millionth the budget of PG&E. And they spent $46 million of their ratepayers' money, and we spent and pledged to spend only $46 on the entire campaign. And that got us some earned media, and it was goofy and ridiculous. And that's how I started working on oil issues as well. For Prop 23, an oil company tried to do a very similar thing and tried to kill AB 32, which was environmental legislation that was the strongest standards in the country for reducing greenhouse gases. So we feel like the kind of work that we're able to stop huge energy corporations from doing in California kind of sets a precedent that, man, if we can't fool those folks over in California, maybe it'll be harder to fool them in Tennessee. Maybe it'll be harder to fool them. Are there other states besides Tennessee and California? Maybe Illinois, where I'm from, or Texas, or Alaska, something like that.
Yeah, it's like, 40-some, 50-some states.
Yeah, you count the stars on the thingamajig, and the white ones, and
Yeah, I remember that. Actually, there was 49 when I was born. That's how old I was. So, success. How successful are you with something like this? Did those propositions pass, or what happened?
Prop 16 was the largest discrepancy between one side spending and the other side spending, where the people that had the least amount of money won. The entire No on Prop 16 campaign spent $110,000. The Yes on campaign spent $46 million, as I said, and they lost barely. We barely won. So it was one of those rare opportunities where every single person who worked on the No on Prop 16 campaign, which felt like maybe a couple dozen of us, it definitely made a difference and may be the person responsible for getting that extra 100 votes. So that is really what threw me into direct politics rather than all the anti-war stuff that I used to do in New York. And Prop 23, I worked hard on that, but honestly, the oil companies lost by so much, probably because people related to Prop 16, that my efforts in it were maybe just more for fun, doing viral videos like Mac versus PC parodies and Benjamin Bratt making fun of himself, comparing himself to a crab, things like that. Just weird stuff that get people's attention.
So if people wanted to get in touch with you and say, hey, I need to work on this issue, I want to get something out, how do they get a hold of you to get something rolling? And what's the process when they do that?
Okay. Well, people can reach me at ben@newmessagemedia.com. That's also a plug for you to actually visit the site, newmessagemedia.com. You can see satire and also serious talking head stuff from everything from wildlife restoration to energy issues, things like that. And what you do is you come to me and you say, don't come say to me, I want you to make a video, because what I'm going to say right back is, what's your campaign? What are you trying to achieve, and what's the way we can have the greatest impact? Therefore, who do we need to influence? Therefore, what's the style of the video? Therefore, let's go make the video and push it out in a way to make sure that not only the right people see it, but everybody sees it.
Always a good way to approach things, and with the end result in mind, as opposed to, hey, just let's do something cool. Although, sometimes doing something cool is fine, just like sitting down and doing this. Ben, we really appreciate you